This man looks like he's very low on moral fiber in his construction. His eyes dart around the room nervously, as if he's expecting someone to jump on him. His bald head reflects the overhead lighting. Dr. Pippin Carter is a tall, dignified, middle-aged gentleman with a carefully trimmed moustache. You eye this woman with a certain amount of jealousy. Her fashionably high cheekbones, impeccably styled hair, and sultry eyes make you feel mousy and naive by comparison. This snappily dressed man looks like an accountant, but there's an air of mystery about him as well. This short, blustery man reminds you vaguely of President Roosevelt. Despite his diminutive frame, his bearing is self-assured and cocky, and his pince-nez only adds to the aura of distinguished snobbery.
Heard any good rumors lately?
Maybe, or maybe not. What's it worth to you?
Well, I don't have any money right now.
Then I ain't got no rumors for you, Toots. Can't help yous with that, Toots. The new museum prez? Stodgy old guy, but a fine chap. Yeah, that's it, a fine chap. Good man.
You've met Rube Crodfaller, haven't you?
Certainly I have. Definitely one of the most up-and-up guys I know. Keeps his nose clean, but knows how to have a good time. I know the dagger was heisted. I might even know who done it, but I ain't talking.
If you know, why won't you go to the police?
All I got is a suspicion. I got nothing hard. Besides, what have the cops done for me lately?
This is in the interests of justice. Who are you trying to protect?
I'm trying to protect me. Now flip.
With a little work, I can turn the Leyendecker into a world-class museum. But that can wait a few months until they decide to make me the president. Dr. Carrington will have to find other employment, of course, but I'm sure some lesser museum would be happy to have him on their staff.
You must be very upset about the burglary.
Quite so. If I ever find out who stole my dagger of Amun-Ra, they won't live to regret it, I can assure you.
Oh my! Do you have any idea who would do such a thing?
I have my suspicions, but I need more proof before I subject him to the full force of my wrath.
Have the police learned anything?
Those incompetents? Hardly. They couldn't even find any clues around the dagger display.
Sounds like the burglar might have been a professional.
Perhaps. It's more likely the local constable couldn't find a clue if it jumped up and bit him on the bum. Ah, yes. Can't say I'm too impressed with Detective O'Reilly. Couldn't find a single bloody clue about the dagger burglary. And he has the nasty habit of chewing on grapes constantly, probably to cover up the smell of the alcohol he drinks. A crodfoller is some sort of miniature vegetable, isn't it? A potato, perhaps. Dr. Carrington is a fine chap. He used to be in charge of the British Museum, you know. I ran into him several years ago when I visited the British Museum to consult with Dr. Butch. Seems odd that Dr. Carrington doesn't remember me, but I almost didn't recognize him either. He's getting old after all. Looks different. Memory's probably shot as well. That's me, you silly girl. If you want to arrange an in-depth interview, we'll have to schedule it later in the week. Dr. Miklos is rather eccentric, but she is well educated. Received her training at one of the better universities in Athens, Greece. She's considered quite knowledgeable in the area of hieroglyphics, but her speciality is paleontology. She's fond of old bones.
Yes, I am Yvette Delacroix, but I am not one to be talking about myself too much, no? I am not like the great...
That trollop sleeps with everything that moves, and some things that don't. It's only by sheer strength of will that I've resisted her advances so far. You already asked.
Since you're an expert on the subject, what can you tell me about Egyptology?
I don't have time to explain the intricacies of my profession to a neophyte. If you're truly interested, I'd suggest several years of difficult study on the subject at one of your better universities. Once you've finished that, you can talk to me again.
Since you're new here, what do you think of New York? Isn't it exciting?
I hate it. It's crowded, it's noisy, and you Americans have no concept of how the class system is supposed to work. You go around treating each other like equals, which I find very distasteful.
Ah, Monsieur Pippin, he is such a great man, and quite attractive, no? Dr. Carrington is my superior, so I'd rather not be saying the bad things about him.
What bad thing?
He is very strange, even for a man. Ah, but you are trying to trick me, no? It's best that I am not talking about him. Ah, the codfaller. I met him only once on the train. The train was the sleeper car. It was dark, and I climbed into his berth by mistake. He will always remember that meeting, I am sure. I, unfortunately, will have forgotten it in a few months. Dr. Miklos and I, we have much of the fun together. She is very friendly. Many times we have run through the museum chasing the daisy, no? The museum, it is such a wonderful place to work. The people, they are so friendly, and I am enjoying my work here. I intend to be the president someday. New York, it is a rough place for the newcomer, no? So many people in the one place, it reminds me of Paris, but it is where all the money is, no? The Americans, they have so much more money than the French. It is terrible to think someone could break into this museum and steal something so valuable. Monsieur Heimlich, he is all broken up about it, although he doesn't show it.
How did Dr. Carrington react to the burglary?
Dr. Carrington is a very dignified man. There is not much you can learn from his face. He seems to have taken the burglary very well, although he was angry with Wolf about the poor security.
Do you have any idea who might have stolen the dagger?
There are many suspicious people here tonight who could have done it. The Countess, for example, or the little man Ziggy. But I have not the proof, you understand? The annoying little man, I met him at this speakeasy long ago, but he is not my class of person, no. He is of the criminal type. Monsieur Heimlich, he is the intense fellow, no? Very military, very stiff and straight. I feel very safe around him, but I also feel uncomfortable. He patrols the museum so much. It is strange the dagger was stolen from under his nose, no?
Do you suspect him of stealing the dagger?
Who knows? I am not the policeman. But he seemed very upset about the burglary. Maybe too upset, no? Ah, Monsieur O'Reilly, he is magnifique. He is so intelligent, so confident, so... Ooh la la.
I assume you've met him before tonight.
Oh yes, we are, how do you say, the old friends. And it never hurts to have the highly placed friend on the local police force, no?
I suppose that's true. What do you think of his burglary investigation?
People here, they keep saying Monsieur O'Reilly, his investigation of the dagger is not good, but he tries very hard. I have seen him work, but the dagger thief, he is very good, no?
He? You think the burglar was a man?
It is only the manner of speaking, Miss Bow. This burglar, she could have been the female as well. Ah, the Countess. She is not what she seems, no?
What do you mean?
Her last husband, he was afraid of her. He told me. Then as I learned more, I was becoming afraid of her too.
Why? She seems like a nice old lady.
It is all the act, no? She is a dangerous one. Now I think she is after Dr. Carrington's money, since I am seeing them together so often lately.
I don't understand. Why is she so dangerous?
Just be trusting me, Miss Bow. Stay away from the Countess. People die when she's around.
Oh dear.
Ah, this Steve, he is so big and handsome, no? You should ask Dr. Miklos or Dr. You ask yourself.
I don't think I've heard of him. I'll tell you, most of the cops around this town stink. But O'Reilly's different. He's okay. He really knows how to treat a mouthpiece, you know? I made some good jack working for him.
1,000 curses on that man! He defiled the tombs of my sacred ancestors for his own personal glory. He doesn't care a fig for what's right and what's wrong. His own evil deeds will catch up with him, though. Just wait and see.
Good evening, sir. My name is Laura Bow.
I am Ramses Najir, Miss Bow. Pleased to make your acquaintance.
Bonjour, Miss Bow. Dr. Carrington told me you were covering this party for the newspaper. I'm Yvette Delacroix.
That's right, Miss Delacroix. I'm writing the social news column.
Ah, the social news. I was thinking you were here about the burglary.
The burglary? Of course not. The newspaper would never assign a female cub reporter like myself to such an important story.
Ah, you are probably being correct, Miss Bow.
This is quite a party. Does the museum always have a big fundraiser when they open a new exhibit, Dr. Carter?
No, but they've never had such an important exhibit opening here before. And I'm an important curator with an important salary, so the museum wouldn't have been able to keep me employed here without financial assistance.
You must be very important for the museum to go to so much trouble.
Naturally. The museum is lucky that I accepted this position as the head of their new Egyptian Antiquities department. Why, my name alone will attract more visitors and more money to the museum.
Any chance that the Tutankhamun exhibit will make a stop here on its American tour?
No. I'd hate to embarrass my relative by putting his Tutankhamun artifacts on display here. They pale by comparison to my own great discoveries, such as the dagger of Amun-Ra.
Of course. How silly of me to think otherwise.
Yes, that was rather silly of you.
Good evening, Dr. Carrington.
Good evening, Miss Bow. Good evening.
Ah, yes. Heimlich's the security chief here. Not a particularly good one, obviously, since the dagger was stolen right from under his nose. And he's rather too intense for my tastes. Of course I know Ramses. There were several of them, actually. Ramses I was pharaoh during the 19th dynasty. From 1290 to 1224 BC, Ramses II undertook his mortuary site at Thebes. The Ramesseum contains a temple to Amun-Ra.
Actually, I was referring to Ramses Najir.
Never heard of him. The Countess was married to the former president of the Leyendecker Museum, Sterling Waldorf Carlton. A good chap, but uninspired. Now she has her sights set on Dr. Carrington.
I have heard a great deal about Mr. Carrington, but I do not know him very well. We have only spoken once or twice, but he seems like a cultured, charming fellow. To be perfectly honest, I do not care for Mr. O'Reilly. I do not think he sees the beauty in ancient Egypt. He is somewhat blunt in his approach to others as well. I suppose that is just part of his job, however. Crodfollowers? No, thank you. I try to restrict my intake of sugar. It has a bad effect on me. I do not know Ziggy very well, but he makes me uneasy. His eyes remind me of a jackal's. I met him briefly at the party, then avoided him the rest of the time. Dr. Miklos is a brilliant individual, but he is certainly a little strange. Ah well, we all have our foibles, don't we, Miss Bow? Miss Yvette is a charming young lady, and so friendly. She seems genuinely interested in Egyptology. We had a long discussion about tombs one time. I find Mr. Heimlich to be most intimidating. He seems to enjoy looming over people. The Countess is quite a colorful lady. She seems to enjoy life to the fullest, does she not? Just between you and me, she scares me a little.
Why is that, Mr. Najia?
Well, she's just too enthusiastic for me, I suppose. The Leyendecker is a beautiful museum, Miss Bow, but I do not approve of the despoiling of my ancestors' tombs, much less the wanton display of their bodies and their personal effects.
Do you like the city of New York, Mr. Najia?
Well, it is a very lucrative place for an accountant to set up shop, but the city itself is rather large and frightening.
Mr. Najia, would you have any idea who might have stolen the dagger of Ammon-Ra?
No, but whoever did should be boiled alive. He should be fed to hungry crocodiles. His guts should be strung from the pyramids. He should... Oh, excuse me. I get a little passionate on the subject.
Quite all right, Mr. Najia. I understand.
The fellow has quite an overinflated ego, but he's got a legitimate reason for it, I suppose. I'm not acquainted with the chap. Oh, he's a good enough chap for a law enforcement peon. Miss Bow, I find it vaguely offensive that you would even think that I know anyone named Ziggy. Dr. Miklos is one of the museum's most respected curators. I really haven't had much interaction with Miss Delacroix. Well, of course, she is my assistant. So I guess I should correct myself and say that I do have interaction with her. But I don't know her very well, really. He's a real pip. A genuine go-getter, that fellow. He does a jolly good job of guarding the museum. Jolly good. Now there's an intense personality. He doesn't look it, but there's something seething below the surface. I'm frightfully sure of it. In any case, the fellow is a fine accountant. Now there's a lady who truly supports the arts. A real patron, that old girl. The Leyendecker is simply fantastic, Miss Bow. This is the opportunity of a lifetime.
make of the theft of the dagger, Dr. Carrington?
It's simply beastly. What is the world coming to when crepuscular ruffians can invade a museum like Visigoths?
Do you have any idea who could have done such a thing?
Not at all. But if I did, I'd be tempted to teach the brute a lesson.
The buffet tables are heaped with food, champagne, and water. You pick it up and place it in your purse.